Hey, Facebook, welcome to my temporary live video spot from my apartment in Vancouver, where I have just been live tweeting the mid-season finale, fall finale, episode 9, episode 101, episode crazy of Arrow. Or as Patty Murin, Colin Donnell's lovely wife, thought, I was live tweeting Hairspray live. Which I may have been. Maybe the two things matched up. Maybe it was like that Pink Floyd album and The Wizard of Oz. Who's to say, really? Now, we are going to talk in depth, extensively, exclusively, spoilery about the episode. So if you haven't seen episode 101 of Arrow and you don't want to be spoiled, I won't be offended. Stop what you're doing. Log off. Don't look at this. I will clearly state in the description of this video that there are going to be spoilers, which I probably should have done before I went live. I probably should have said, let's talk Arrow, including spoilers, but I didn't. I will retroactively do it. But just know that spoilers are going to happen. So, let's talk. This was the first script in a long time, and that says a lot because the previous script had aliens in it. This was the first script in a long time where I read what happened in Act 5. And I'm not going to spoil stuff unless people actually specifically ask the question. That I read what happened in Act 5 and I went, like that. It legitimately freaks me out. And then the fallout of it, of how certain characters were going to react to it, whether that was going to bring back familiar positions for characters, that worried me a little bit, but ultimately, knowing where we go in episode 10, 11, 12, we're finishing up 13 and going into 14 now, I'm very excited. It's a very cool development, and it certainly raises the stakes for Mr. Prometheus. I will say, Die Hard literally is my favorite Christmas movie. My dad showed me Die Hard for the first time way before he should have, probably somewhere in the area of 1988 when I was 7, because he did that back then. And I love Die Hard, so when Oliver got to say my favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard, and then I said afterwards, that's true. That's true was an ad-lib, which I thought if they wanted to, they could cut it out, but they didn't, and I really appreciated that. So, let's go over the story of the episode. We discover, off the top, Prometheus attacks Curtis. We discover that not only does Prometheus know that he's Mr. Terrific, but he clearly knows that Oliver is the Green Arrow. And then they go down the rabbit hole of thinking that possibly Prometheus is Justin Claiborne. It turns out that Prometheus is Justin Claiborne's son. Justin Claiborne is a man that the Hood, and oh boy was it great to put that suit on back in season 1, took out when he was crossing names off the list in season 1. As a result, Prometheus is out for revenge. Prometheus kidnaps... Seriously, we're going to spoil it. Prometheus kidnaps Billy. Prometheus baits and switches Oliver into killing Billy Malone, the Malone boyfriend. And Oliver comes back, has to tell the team. Things go badly for Diggle, for Curtis with his relationship with his husband Paul, with Felicity with her relationship with the now deceased Detective Malone. And Oliver is relaying all of this to Susan Williams. They smooch. And then Oliver comes back to the lair, and lo and behold, Dinah Laurel Lance is standing right in front of him. So yeah. So Leslie Smith says, is Laurel really alive? Well, I guess we'll have to tune in January 20, whatever it comes back. Does it not come back till February? I don't know these things. No one tells me. But Oliver's certainly, I think you can tell by his face. Well, by his face, it was like, oh God, what's happening? But, I mean, obviously people don't just come back from the dead, so there has to be some sort of vetting process to make sure it actually is Laurel, because the group has seen some peculiar things. But we delve into that when we come back in the new year. Just a lot of oh my gods. It's January 25th. Thank you, Margaret Berenzi. Except she says January 25th, my dear. Like, that might be sarcastic. Like, it would have been January 25th, my dear. But thanks anyway. I really do appreciate it. Christina Lacrosse says no to the reporter. What about the reporter? Carly's awesome. I like that character. I really, really like Susan Williams as a character, especially because it was my concern in the early part of the season that she would just be like this one-note evil reporter, but I haven't found that at all. I think that Carly is equal to the task, and I really like my scenes with her. Daniel Davis says blame Barry for Flashpoint. I do. Every day. Every single day. I was very proud of this episode. I thought that it came out well. Abby Hanley says everyone on your show comes back from the dead. Well, that's not true. Where's Tommy? Love you, Colin. Miss you. Okay, every day. Karen Rice says anything you can spoil about the reporter. No. I mean, clearly she knows that stuff is going on in Russia for Oliver, but no. Richard Garcia says the episode was wild. It's going back to season 1 and 2. Well, I appreciate that. I feel like season 1 and 2 have been somewhat lionized, but I do think that this season is more in keeping with the earlier days of the show, sticking within Star City. Obviously metas and aliens and magic to a certain extent, and people coming back from the dead is certainly involved in our world now, but it can all have an Arrow spin to it, which I think is critically important. Dwayne Cree Williams says, I think you will reach over 10 seasons. Well, then we would pass Smallville. But we're never passing Supernatural. Ever. In fact, those guys might be hanging on just to see how long I go, just to make sure that that never happens. Plus, there are 2 of them. Damn it. Although Diggle counts as 3. So, technically there's 4 of us. By the way, how did David Ramsey look younger in the flashbacks tonight from 4 years ago than he did when we shot the show 4 years ago? I look like shit compared to 4 years ago because we figured this out the other day, like 90,000 hours into the show. Ramsey, not so much. Philip I says, it would be awesome if the Black Canary came back. And I agree. Lots of consternation within the fan base about what's important in the Black Canary, in the Green Arrow verse. And I will say that, forgetting about the show for a second, because if you just look at the canon of Green Arrow, John Diggle wasn't actually a character, and he's indispensable. Felicity Smoke wasn't really a character, and she's indispensable. So we picked and plucked from various parts of the DC universe. But if you're just getting into the canon of Green Arrow, the comic book character, not necessarily this show, but the comic book character, it's the Black Canary is easily the most important feature next to the Green Arrow, period, full stop, forever. So it would be very nice to have the Black Canary back. I would agree with that. Adam Moyer says, I was never a Green Arrow fan, but you definitely made me want to do great work, and I look forward to more episodes. You should. We got some good stuff coming up the new year. We're in the middle right now of a episode that you might call a departure, insofar as I wear the Arrow costume for a grand total of 25 seconds. And I think it's a really cool episode. By the way, my mom just joined the live chat, and she texts me during the broadcast, but she watches it on a delay so that she doesn't have to watch commercials. So whenever I'm watching it live, which is extremely rare, her texts come in on a delay. Typically, when I watch an episode, I watch a studio or a network cut, which is something that is put together 7 to 10 days after you wrap an episode, and the director takes a pass, and then the producers take a pass, and the studio gives notes, the network gives notes, and that creates the studio network cut. The studio network cut sort of looks like this live feed right now, insofar as it doesn't really have color correction, the sound isn't particularly good, it has temp VFX, temp music, and you really have to focus in on the performances, to say nothing of the fact that the vocals aren't actually up in the mix. And if you can like that episode, then when you see the product that we put on TV tonight with Blake Neely's music, which is spectacular as always, all of our visual effects, which are fantastic this year, that shot of the throwing star breaking apart the Arrow, or the shot of them diving off the building, which those boys actually did. Boy, oh boy. Also, our stunt department in this episode. Do you know how much it hurts to land on an escalator? It's an escalator. It feels horrible. There was one part that I had to do in that fight where on action I simply had to grab a guy and throw him, but he's supposed to be dead. So he had to dead fall on an escalator that was moving. I really can't overstate this. I looked at Curtis, who put the fight together, and I thought that I tagged him on Twitter. I thought that the stunt department did a miraculous, spectacular job tonight. But I looked at him and I'm like, dude, are these guys going to break their necks? They're falling on an escalator. He was like, that's why people don't usually do fights on escalators. Noted. Yeah. Joshua Reguin says Jericho just put you on his list. I hope that's true. Brief segue. Chris Jericho, he has a list? What is this, 2012? Get it together, Jericho. I'll go on your list. Whatever. Liam Coates says, any chance of seeing you in a Supernatural cameo? God, I hope so. Before it's done. Jared Jensen, by the way, Jensen, congratulations. I haven't spoken to him yet on the birth of his twins. That's wonderful news. That must be easy. I'll take a day rate, walk on, as long as I'm murdered horribly, preferably not by Misha, but by one of you two. I would totally take a walk on role. Jimmy Manzik says the fight scene leading up to the roof and then you killing was amazing. Love how it tied into season 1. Such a nice twist. Antonio Negrete, who directed our episode, really deserves a lot of credit. He was so meticulous in the details of the way that the bodies were placed, just matching the camera movements and the stunts and the transitions, and that stuff is not easy. And I remember those were all the stuff in that building, the Act 5 leading up to what happens with Billy, and the previous fight with Prometheus when Evelyn reveals herself. That was all shot in the post office building in Vancouver, and those were 2 of the longest days that I've ever had on the set of Arrow. As a matter of fact, I think that there's a photo floating around of me sleeping in the suit. Well, guess what? It was earned. Okay? Antonio did a wonderful job in that. Really, really wonderful job. David Dorno says Casey Jones for president. Okay? Not a bad idea. Asim Nabal says, will Roy Harper come back in season 5? Maybe. I've been chatting with Colton a little bit. He mentioned that he might be back at some point, but we'll see. Always love having that guy around. Jason Phillips says, don't make promises you can't keep, Ollie. Yeah. I'm going to have to talk to the writers about this because Oliver saying I promise has become a bit of a red herring or a death blow or like, oh God, what's going to happen next? The other thing that you might notice about this episode is my various hairdos, because my hair is long now, but because of the crossover, there were actually, and I don't want to pull the curtain too far back. I don't want you going through the episode again and looking for my different hair lengths, although feel free to watch it again or possibly purchase it on iTunes. Thank you. But we shot this episode, the bulk of it over the typical 8-day stretch, but we shot pieces of it before we started shooting episode 9, and we shot pieces of it after we had finished shooting episode 9, both because of the scheduling with the crossover, which was a blast, obviously, and because of one of our cast members had his first child. So he was unavailable, naturally. But yeah, a couple more things. Hair on fleek. I still don't know what fleek means. Am I supposed to? Don't tell me. Don't put it in the comments. I don't want to know what it means. I'm going to assume it means good. Emma MC says, are you ever going to tour Australia? Well, I was there this past summer, but I'd like to come back. Tatiana Paulino says, I'll buy it on Google. Well, that all works, you know what I mean? Blake Blackburn says, I hope we see you and Laurel back together. I want you with Laurel again. A lot of... Anna Cameron says, are we going to see you again at Calgary Expo in 2017? I hope so. I hope so. I don't want to speak before the promoter speaks, but we're working on making that happen. And Michelle L. Shart, 2 Truths, 1 Lie for new episodes in 2017. There's a road trip, a boys' trip, as a matter of fact, where we're looking for a girl. There is a resurrection. And there is something we dedicated early in the season that's destroyed. Saul Pantoja asks, "What did you think of the crossover?" And I'll end on this. I thought that the crossover, when it all came together, was forgetting about the qualities of the episodes for a second, which I thought was very, very cool. I thought that it was just a really cool celebration of what we've had an opportunity to build over the past 5 years, and I thought that it was a real testament to the creative forces behind these shows, to the cast of these shows, but most importantly to the crew of these shows, because what everyone had to throw down with over the course of a month, juggling shows, Arrow crew picking up stuff for the Flash crew picking up stuff for Arrow, Legends crew doing stuff for everybody. I mean, everyone really pulled together in the same direction this year, and I think that you saw it on the screen. And then, of course, there's Greg Berlanti, who says, you know what, I'd really like if the crossovers ended with Barry and Oliver sitting in a bar having a beer. And that's why Greg Berlanti's Greg Berlanti. So thank you very much for watching tonight, everybody. I'm incredibly proud of the first 9 episodes this year. I think that we've set things up nicely for the back half of the year, even though we're actually looking at 14 episodes left and only 9 down. But it feels good right now. It feels good. It feels like we're doing the show that we want to do, and that's because of you guys. So thank you very much. I actually have to go to work now. I'm in the last scene of the day, which rarely happens. And I'm not saying that there's anyone to blame, but Mark Bunting is the first assistant director on this episode, and if I'm going to blame someone, it will be him. He's directing episode 511, so I've been having fun with him for a couple of months now. Thank you, Facebook. I will talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for watching tonight, and try not to spoil stuff for the West Coast. Okay? Like I did repeatedly for the past 90 minutes.